increasingly more clearer form that is given. So if you talk about Shiva, obviously there is a yogic form of Shiva that is seen in Harappa and Mohenjo-daro, in our civilizations as well. So it is at least 4,000 to 6,000 years, old, in terms of that form was there. But even before that, in terms of Vedic and pre-Vedic aspects of that, is from a formless, it has evolved into form. And so when we talk about this, so we need to address those formless part, and then come to what forms we are talking about, and then including the Nataraja of Chidambaram, which gives the ultimate expression of a form, an ultimate expression of Shiva, or any Brahman that you want to say. And the Nataraja is one expression. Dr. Karan Singh some of you may know, he was an ambassador here and he has been a minister back home, but many of you may or may not know, he's a great Hindu scholar. You can take a difference in opinion, but he's from, he talks about Kashmir Saivism. And so he is very strong in terms of his discussion. So he talks about how Nataraja is the ultimate expression. So maybe I'll say something and you might want to elaborate on that as well. But let me talk about Shiva Tattwa then. It was a principle in those days. So before you have to think about an anthropomorphic form, like what we see, even before the form of linga, which is something that is pre Nataraja figures and Shiva pictures and all that. But this is even before that, Lord Shiva's existence. I appreciate it. As you can see, this is the first of the series. So we have a lot of, little things that we have to learn. Okay, and I think it's not too big a crowd, so we can, if you can't hear, let me know. I'll probably try to project a little bit more. And so, as a talking about the Shiva as a principle or as a consciousness, so it is more than anything else. It is the consciousness of all of us. So it is within us. It is here. It is out there as well. So it is not just it is that. So then it becomes a part of the cosmos. So the entire principle that exists in the universe and the cosmos lives within you as well. And so this is what you can relate to. So initially, what is called, there was a arupa, the formless, and that is beyond any manifestations. And rupa, nirmaya, nirguna, each one of them saying that there is no attributes, there is no form, it is adi, without any end. And when you say that, that means it is beyond space, time, and matter. That, I think, is the very important thing. The principle of Shiva existed. Whichever works best. Yes, we'll try. I think we're just trying to. Yeah, that's what it is. And hey, Raja, you have to remember this for the next series. So what it is all of the space, time, and matter is a manifest form of what this original principle was. And so this was even before the Shiva principle, when you say, is even before any of these manifestations. And so space, time, and matter was manifested out of this Shiva principle and expanded. And if you even as you all know, the Big Bang, it is not being accepted as the fact. In fact, they talk about everything coming from one point, and then there is an inflation, an expansion that is taking place from the point. And so the science also looks like finally coming to what the Sanatana Dharma was talking about from the very beginning, even before all this rupa, names and gods were given. So it came. So this is pre-space, time, and matter. And also, this is also to, when you talk about this, the point, from which also the speech and thought comes and then returns to that. So that we, as a practitioner of Sanatana Dharmas, agree with the concept of cycles. It is not just one time it happens and then goes. It just happens all the time. And so we are then start elaborating the philosophical principles of the dharma, karma, the reincarnation, rebirth part of it, as well as in terms of moksha, that comes, in terms of this aspect of that. Then from the arupa, we go to rupa arupa, the formless form. This is the transitional state from the Shiva principle, that is pre-manifestations, and this is the transfer of the subtle to gross. And so this change that is taking place. But at that time, neither there was existence nor non-existence. In fact, Rig Veda will start, saying in terms of neither was it there, nor was it not there. And that is the rupa arupa in terms of it. And so in Rig Veda also it says, neither there was sat, nor there was a sat. So this is not, there is any one particular thing. Sat comes after, And then the third part is the sarupa. Please don't mistake this for swarupa. That is different. This is sarupa, with form. Sarupa, so with form. Now, as the progression takes place, with the understanding of the civilization and the rishis and the saints elaborating on concentrating, meditating, and getting knowledge, in terms of this, then start to say, this is okay for maybe for some of us who spend our life in meditating, and to be able to conceptualize the abstract principle of Shiva or Brahman, if you want to call that, and consistent with our Siva Vishnu Temple theme, in terms of this. So the Brahman, it's very difficult to comprehend for all of us, a very abstract principle. So they, over many thousand years, elaborated on in terms of give a form, give a name. So then then they give a lot of elaborate aspects of those different godhoods, whether you call it as a trinity initially, Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, Rudra, and then as well as the other, 33 crores of gods and goddesses, you talk about. Then they are all given a function. So if you want to pray for some specific material, down-to-earth benefits that you need, why did somebody keep time? So you just say time up, I'll finish up in 2 minutes after that. And so that way, I don't keep on going on. And so this form, or the manifested state of this Shiva principle or Shiva Tattwa, regardless of form, name, or whatever, the Tattwa remains. The principle remains. So the Shiva Tattwa exists. But the way I would say exist, as I'm looking at from here on the end. Otherwise, there is no existence or non-existence. If you go to that stage of realization, even that is, you don't have to say it exists. It's, and then I'm going to skip some of the other things. There are 8 manifestations, and then they are subdivided into another 64 manifestations. I'm going to leave that for now and talk about that the Shiva principle is not limited by time or his body, and this entire cosmos is permeated with this principle. So it is, whether it's living, non-living, here, elsewhere, everything is imbued with the Shiva principle. And in fact, Dayananda Saraswati has a way of saying, talking about, when he's asked a question about Hinduism, is monotheism or polytheism or all those different theisms, he would say, it is not a question of there is only one God or multiple gods. There is only God. So there is no question of saying one God, 2 gods, and multiple gods. There is only God. That is described in this, that Shiva principle is imbued, permeates everything that is there. And I'm going to, from here, in a couple of minutes, I'm going to, say something, could be controversial, so that's something that we can discuss later. All right, we will leave that. The consciousness that is present in everything and ours, this principle can be identified, with that consciousness. The principle stays, is imbued, in that consciousness of yours, mine, and everything else. This is why the concept of the spark of divinity is within you and within me. So when we say namaste, we are bowing to your divine principle in there. That's one of the explanations. Namaha te. That which is in you, I am bowing towards that. And it is the same principle. That's why all the justice and all the other current principles, the current terminologies that we use starts from that. You have to respect me, I have to respect you, so that all these other things that will not happen, treating badly and all that. So your manasa, vacha, karya, in terms of thinking, words and saying, all should be the right thing, and it should be thinking in terms of that way. So all of that thing, because the consciousness is there in view. This is something that I heard elsewhere. I'm just going to say this. It's an interesting point, That is, if you want to say there's a group of people, they're all talking, you want to ask silence. What do we normally say? Shh. Right? That's what it is. So that means it's universal. You go in that world, shh. It's silence. And then, if you see something phenomenal, fantastic, wonderful, you say, wow. Okay? So we combine these two, Shiva. So it is the silence is the wonderment. The silence in you is what the wonder of it in terms of it. So if you can go reach inside you and touch that silence. I mean, again, when I say touch, it's figuratively we can understand. We're not physically touching, you are just, in terms of in your meditation, so internally. So don't go open it. The word is the heart, I'm going to touch it. And so it is a concept, so that Shiva also has got, some way of looking at, emphasizing the silence. And again, another whole bunch of things I put in terms of all the symbols of Shiva, in terms of what it means. I think we will hold off, and if you have any opportunity to answer questions, we will do it, in terms of what is the Damaru, this, in terms of the Nataraja, that comes trident, what it means, what does the snake mean, what does the crescent moon means. All of those things has got us, it is as a person, we all put all those things as you think it's Varalankara. Where there's a symbolic meaning and philosophical meaning for all of those things as to why and how it happens. We can talk about that when it comes to. And this in Chandogya Upanishad, it says in chapter 6, section 2, verse 1, Ekameva Dvitiyam. That is, he is only one without a second. So they're talking about when you say, even though here it doesn't refer to Shiva as this, but Shiva principle is what we are talking about. Ekam Eva Dvitiyam. He is one only without a second. And Svetasvara Upanishad in chapter 4 says, Natasya Pratima Asti. There is no likeness of him. So all the rupa that we are giving is what we want to give. It's out of our aspect of it we give. We give that. And the linga form is probably the best representation of, to some extent, rupa. In terms of there is a form, but it is really, there is nothing defined about it. It is kind of a representation of the cosmos. It just brings the formation. And there were some interpretations that were done by particularly Western scholars that we don't want to go into at this point. For another time we will talk about it. But that's, the linga form is probably the most or close to what you can get rupa, even though there is a rupa, but without a rupa you can get that. And keep me warned about the time, because I have to say a couple of things about and then I just want to connect it to Mahashivratri. So the Shiva Tattwa, which I said, it is there everywhere. But it is also said, it is in terms of these are all, we have to, by our own meditation, we might be able to feel that. But it has been described by saints that this principle, it stays few inches above the ground, above earth. And on the day of Mahashivratri, this principle and earth comes in contact. It is the wedding of this principle and earth. That is why, particularly in Kashmir, this is wedding of Shiva and Parvati. Is how Mahashivratri is described as. And it has got other interpretations of what the legends are, about that. I don't know, you're going to be touching on that a little bit, or you're going to be even more broader than what I'm trying. And so it has got many legends, which I think, the thing that happens in terms of Samudramatana, what happens and how Shiva swallows the poison. And then again, there are various different ways of including Parvati putting her hand, and that the halahal is held at the throat, and that is blue, and that's why it's called Nilakanta. That's how that name comes. And so there are different things that are attributed that happens on the day of Mahashivratri. And then it also talks about in terms of other things that Shiva avatars have done. Also it's done. So, but this is why it is a very magic day, or if you want to say very auspicious day. And by the way, Shiva itself is auspicious. So the day becomes auspicious. And then so in Mahashivratri, it is the best if you can participate in this puja in a temple, boring at home, doing this would be the most blissful and blissful. And this Shiva is the soul of everything. In fact, there is no difference between soul and Shiva. And then Ratri, in fact, means as you know, Sanskrit words have multiple meanings, have to be interpreted in their context. Ratri also means to take refuge. That is where you go to sleep. You take refuge. And Sivaratri is taking refuge in one's own spirit, its own Shiva. You are taking refuge in, and that is why in the day, and we celebrate the soul, the spirit, the Shiva Tattwa within ourselves. And so the manifestation of that they see in the temples, how they elaborately do this. And Ratri also a refuge, as translating, as we said, in the night, it gives you rest and peace. Peace from what? So peace from three disturbances that can happen. The material disturbances that can happen around you, the mental disturbance that can happen, and then nature's disturbance that can happen. So that's why we always say Om Shanti 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 3 times for all the 3 different disturbances. So may there be peace. And so in Shivaratri, this Ratri also brings peace as you worship Shiva and get the 3 peace around you, in you, and for everyone as well in the environment. All right, let me leave it there. And there is a lot of things to talk about. I'm just going to say what we are going to do on the day of the Shivaratri here, and how does, just brought the principles to the, what does connect to Mahashivaratri, how the principle actually connects with us on this day the most. It can be done every day, but it's the most. And so we are going to do, there is a morning puja. Om Sadasiva Samarambam Sri Kantacharya Madhyamam Asmat Acharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. So in any puja or any samskara that we start, we would always like to pray to Ganesha first, and then all the line of gurus. In the case of Saiva Agamas, the Adi Guru, the first Guru is Sadasiva, and then it is followed by Ananta, and then there is a human being called Srikanta. So that is a human Guru. And then you have Ambika, you have got Shanmukha, and Vishnu, and Brahma. So that is a Guru Pankti, the Guru lineage in Saiva Agama. So all pujas are started by praying to them. And we must really understand, when we talk about Agamas, we have to give some lot of perspective. Because, so that is how each of the Agamas talk about. That's why we have got Saiva Agamas, which talk about the Shiva is Parabrahman. And then you got the Vaishnava Agamas, those are called Samhitas also. So like Vaikanasam and Pancharatram, they talk about Vishnu as the Parabrahman. And then we have got Shakta Agamas, also called Tantras. They talk about the glory of the goddess. The goddess is the supreme being. All other gods and goddesses are inferior to her. So, as Shiva said, how do you reconcile between these? So, the way it is reconciled is as follows. If you take the Veda Samhitas alone, they talk about all the gods. Completely unvarnished praise about all the gods. They don't make a distinction between who is the emperor and who is the servant. Whereas, if you take the Agamas, they are what are known as theological schools. So, Hinduism is very gracious enough to accept multiple theological schools. That's why you got Shanmata. One that says Shiva is the supreme god, other says Vishnu, other says Shaktam, other say Surya, and other say Ganapati, and then the 6th one says Shanmukha is the supreme Parabrahma Swarupa. So, where is this distinction comes in? The Vedas are effuse in praise of all the deities you can think of, whereas the differentiation comes when it comes to the Agamas, because Agamas only have one god as the supreme god, Parabrahman. And then you do have Puranas, which are dedicated to the glory of only one god. So, for example, one god, one set of Puranas like Brahmanda Puranam
says goddess is the supreme. And if you take Vishnu Puranam and Bhagavad Puranam, they will say Vishnu is the supreme Brahman. And if you say Linga Puranam, Agni Puranam and all that, you will say Shiva is the supreme. So there is a reconciliation. So we have to understand that this praise of or exalting the status of one God is only for the devotees to have concentration and dhyana on one God. So since all these paths, the theological schools, lead to the same supreme Brahman. So as Krishna says, in whatever form you worship me, you will reach me. So he clearly says that. So the forms really doesn't matter. But then the Agamas says all this in order to motivate you to have attachment to this particular, that's why the Agamas stands in. So with that understanding, we should understand the Agamas. So in the Agama literature, the Vedas are called Nigamas. So the Veda, the Agama and the Nigama, both these are supposed to be Shrutis, that is handed down by word of mouth, hearing and word of mouth. And so they are both supposed to have originated from the Lord. So the Agamas and Nigamas are called Shrutis, and the rest of the religious literature are called Smritis, and then the Puranas, Itihasas, and then Dharma Shastras, and then Kalpa Shastras, which deal with the various rituals and pujas and so on. So that is the aspect, that is the view with which we should view the Agamas. So let us now see about Shiva Agama, which talks about the glory of Shiva. So naturally, Shiva is the emperor there in Shiva Agama, and all other gods are, actually they do service to Shiva. Just like in Vishnu Agamas, Vishnu is the supreme, and Shiva is the greatest of the Bhagavatas, always meditating on Vishnu. So we should view in that context. So these Agamas, as the word implies, A plus Gama, one which has come down. And then also another interpretation for the meaning of the Agama is Agama. So A means one which is Agama. So second word Gama is Gama. And then third is Matam, Agamatam. So the one that has come down from the face of Shiva and to Parvati. And then that has become the code of conduct for conducting the worship. So that is why it's called Agama. Agama, Matam, Agama and Matam. So all this constitutes Agama. In Shiva Agama there are 28 Agamas. It is often said that Shiva has got 5 faces. See, is Panchasya, that's what we call it. Panchamukam, Panchasya, all means he has got 5 faces. And 4 of the faces, the 4 Vedas are supposed to be originated. And the 5th face, Isana, the 28 Agamas are supposed to have originated. So the 28 Agamas. So you know that in the case of the Upanishad, there are 108 Upanishads. And then there may be contradiction between the Upanishads. And to resolve the contradictions, so that's why Vyasa wrote the Brahma Sutra as a unifying thread among all the Upanishad. Similarly, there are 28 Agamas. In terms of the Kriya, there are likely to be differences. So that is why several people wrote Paddhatis. So even though it was supposed to be a unifying thread for Brahma Sutra in this case, Adi Shankara wrote according to his own Advaita philosophy interpretation of Brahma Sutra. Similarly, Ramanuja wrote in the terms of the Visishta Advaita. Similarly, even for the 28 Agamas, there are 18 Paddhatis. 18 people wrote the treatise on this. But of course, the one that is most recently and widely followed is written by Aghora Sivacharya of the 12th century. And that is being followed, that Paddhati is being followed in probably 98% of the temples from Kanyakumari to Kashmir. That is only a good thing, that Paddhati. Only there are some few temples like Chidambaram actually follows what is known as Makuta Agama, one of the 18 Agamas, it follows separately. And then what the Agamas broadly contain is 4 parts, just like the Vedas contain Samhitas, Brahmanas, Aranyakas and Upanishads. The Agamas contain 4 parts called Charya, Kriya, Yoga and Jnana. So out of this, the first 3 parts deal with some practices, whereas Jnana is a state, it's not a set of practice. That is a state, the Sivan Jnanam, the supreme knowledge of Shiva that you get. by following the things in the this one. Out of this, the charyas mainly lay down the stipulation for personal moral life, and then some of the austerities you have to assume, and so on. No, it is the kriya part which is of most importance in Agama, as it lays down the very detailed aspects of how to build the temple and how to do the various types of aradhana, and all in very great details. And that is where that is being widely used and followed and interpreted, even in these even in the Agora Paddhatis. That is the stress on that. And then, in terms of who can perform the aradhana to Shiva, there are 4 classes of degrees, just like you have got undergraduate, masters, PhDs, and so on. So you do have the 4 kinds of initiation or diksha. One is called Samaya Diksha. In Samaya Diksha is nothing like Brahmopadesam that you give for studying the Vedas, the initial thread ceremony. So Samaya Diksha is for making you wear some Shiva symbols like the Vibhuti, the Rudraksham, the Shekai, and then the Punal, and so on. So those constitutes the Samaya Diksha. If you have taken the Samaya Diksha, you are supposed to be a servant of Shiva. The next stage is Vishesha Diksha, where it is given usually after you get married. So that is where most of the mantrams, like the Samhita mantram, Mula mantram, Bija mantram, they are all initiated to you. That is Vishesha Diksha. The third is Nirvana Diksha, to prepare you for higher principles, the sense of detachment. So the Nirvana Diksha. And then the last and the most supreme PhD degree in that initiation is what is known as Acharya Abhishekam. So only people who have done Acharya Abhishekam get the title of Acharya, and they are have the right to perform the Kumbhabhishekam and so on, Pradishtapana ceremonies. So those are the various kind of Dikshas in Saivagama. So I think I have given a sort of overview or a stratospheric overview of Agamas, although there is much more detail there actually. So next I come to what is known as the core beliefs of Saiva Agamas. In the core belief of Saiva Agama is based on 3 principles: Pati, Pasu, and Pasam. So Pasu, let me start from the middle. So Pashu refers to all the Atmas in the world, every Atma that God has really created. But all those Atmas, unfortunately or fortunately, are bound by so much attachments that keep them to the earthly existence. And that is what has given rise to the principles of the karma theory and so on, the so-called vasanas, the tendencies that you carry over. And all this comes because of the bonds of attachment. That is called Pasham. So Pashu, all the creatures are bound by Pasam. Pasupati Pasam. So the Pasam is actually manifested in terms of 3. So one is called Anavam, that is ego. The second is what is known as karma. See, karma has got 2 impacts. One is the fruits that it is giving either in this birth or the next birth. So then accordingly the karma is divided into agamas and cheya and prarabdha karma and all that. In addition to that, it also manifests tendencies. When you perform a separate set of karma, it is just like making it a habit out of you, or intrinsic habit, or second nature, instinct, whatever you call it. So that is also a sort of impurity, making you do good things and bad things together. So Papa and Punya, they are both burdens you have to carry. If you do Punya, you have to exhaust it. So the same case as you exhaust the Papa. So that is karma, the second impurity. The third is karma is called Maya. So the third impurity is called Maya. The Maya is the one that makes you think of impermanent things as permanent things. Like the body is this one. And then the most supreme misidentification is with respect to I. So what you think as I is only the ego I and not the real I, as Ramana Maharshi used to say. The real I is a real self in all of us. And most of us, we have not reached the stage to know the real I. So that's why he used to quote even Christ saying that in I am that I am. So what you say as I am is nothing but I am. That's what the God says. So the real I is something different. So that is, we are talking about Pati, Pashu, Pasam. I have talked about Pati, I talked about Pashu, the creatures, and then the Pashu. Third, let me come to what is really Pati. So that is where the whole entire Shiva Tattwa relies on what is called Pati. So Pati, as the word knows, is the Supreme Lord or the Master. So Shiva is, of course, in the Shiva theology, he is a Supreme Lord and Master. And as Shiva said, he is manifested really in three forms. So one is Nirgunam, Nishkalam, Nityam, Manovacha, Magocharam. Beyond any qualities, beyond any attributes, beyond any gunas, and so on. That is called the Parashiva or Paramashiva. The second is what you worship in the Lingam. The Lingam is a transition, as Shiva said, between the formless and the form. So the Linga is called Arupa Rupam or Sakala Nishkalam. That means form without form, and then also qualities without qualities, and so on and so forth. So that form is what is known as Sadashiva. So the formless form is Paramashiva. So the Arupam or the formless is Sadashiva, the Paramashiva, and then what we are worshipping is Sadashiva, the Lingam. And then the third form is with the various Maheshwara Murtam, it's called. Some Saiva Agamas call it, there are 25 in number, and some call it as 64 in number, the Maheshwara Murtams. So under this Maheshwara Murtams comes only all the forms, Kamari, Kalari, Nataraja, Dakshinamurti, Bhairava, you name it. So all these are Murtis. So that's called Maheshwara Murtam. So in other words, Shiva has got three principles, Parashiva, Sadasiva, and Maheshwara Murtam. So that is why the Shiva is worshipped in these three forms. But we all know that somehow the Linga form is the most widely worshipped. 99% of the time Shiva is worshipped as Linga. So that means in the name of Sadashiva. So what is the importance of Sadashiva to be worshipped in that form only, as opposed to the gods with various forms? In fact, in some of the temples, even in our temple, beyond the Dvajastambam, you see the various other forms of Shiva, like Bhairava, Bhikshadana, and all those people. So they are all relegated to the wall. So what is the importance of Sadashiva and why it is widely worshipped? Because how Sadashiva form got there, and then from what emanated from Sadashiva form. So these factors are responsible for Sadashiva being widely worshipped. So how the Sadashiva form got there? See, the one that is without name and form and gunas, the Parashiva, then manifested as Jyoti Swarupa. That is why it's called Paranjyoti. And that is what you got Puranic support for this, that is appeared as a column of fire. And then from the column of fire, the Linga manifested. So the Linga manifested is the first transition point from Arupa to Rupa. Even the Jyoti form cannot be really worshipped, because Abhatala Napastalan the Bhuvana Brahmanda Maviswarate. It extended all the way from bottom, which cannot be fathomed, and to the top, which cannot be seen. So that was in that form, the column of fire. So that column of fire cannot be worshipped. And then this concrete form, at least without no limbs, but at least a spherical shape. There is no Murti there, but there is form there. That is why Sadashiva is a widely worshipped form of Shiva. And then that is only one aspect, how Sadashiva got to that point. The second aspect is what emanated from Sadashiva. So if you look at, if you listen to Sivacharya, one of the slokams, the Jnana slokams for Sadashiva that they will say is, so they will imagine the Panchasanam or Pancha 5 faces inside that lingam. They will say Shantam Padmasanastam Sashidharamakutam Panchavaktram Trinetram. So they will imagine Panchavaktram, 5 faces, and then 3 eyes, and then moon, and so on. So that is the form from which emanated the 5 faces. So those 5 faces are for performing the 5 important tasks called Panchakrityas. The 5 faces, says, I will say it in that order. Satyojadam, Vamadevam, Agoram, Tatpurusham, Gisanam. Respectively, they do the functions of creation, sustenance, destruction, and the fourth is Tirodhanam or Tirobhavam, that is the weaving power, the one, the Maya that is surrounds you, which prevents you from knowing the real truth. That is called Tirodhanam or Tirobhavam. And the fifth is Anugraham, that is giving you the grace or the blessing to realize that you are nothing but Shiva. So that is the Anugraha Murti. So those are the 5 faces of Shiva. It is called Panchakrityam, and is done by the Pancha Murtis. And then those 5 Murtis in turn manifested as a real Rupam in Maheshwara Murtam for you to be worshipped. Because after all, you are made to the 5 senses. What you can see, you can appreciate if it has got a shape and form. And then what you hear, mantras, if you got very pleasing to hear, you are able to connect to them. So that is why you got a Murti's form, and so that you can see and hear the mantras. So that is the Linga form. So then briefly, the third aspect is the rituals. You know, the Kriya aspect of the Agamas clearly deal with every minute detail of the Shiva temple. So for example, Shiva temple can contain 1 prakara, 3 prakara, 5 prakaras, and also it has got, the temple has got 7 portions: Ardhamandapam, Garbhagraham, Ardhamandapam, Snapana Mandapam, Mahamandapam, Nritta Mandapam, and Asthana Mandapam, where the Utsava deities are kept, and then 2 Rajagopura. There are 7 mandapams in the Shiva temple. And then how each of the deities are consecrated. So you know, the deities are called Vigrahas, but in its raw form, when it is made out of stone by the Sthapati, it is called Bimba. So what are the karma, samskaras that take it from a Bimba to Vigraha? So those are elaborated in details. The Bimba first rests in water for 41 days, all the grains. So it's called Adivasam, Jaladivasam, Dhanyadivasam, and so on. And then how the eyes are opened by the Sthapati himself physically, and in terms of mantra rupa by the various, by the Acharya, and then all the various vadams, how life is injected into the deity, and how to explain the form that God, we say there are 2 qualities. One is immanent, he is everywhere in all the elements. So that is called Murti Nyasam, bringing the power of the various 5 elements, as well as the sun, moon, and then the Yajamana himself who is doing the puja, the Atma. So all those is called Murti Nyasam, and then giving life to this one is called Jivan Nyasam. The Jivan Nyasam is also commonly by the name Prana Pradishta. That's what we call it as a common name is Prana Pradishta, Jivan Nyasam. And then all the 36 Tattvams, that is all elaborated here in Agama. The second thing is, it talks about Nitya Karma. So in Nitya Karma consists of Nitya Homam, Shivadni Homam that you do, and then the Shiva Puja that we do upstairs. The Shiva Puja consists of Dwara Puja to all the 7 deities like Ganesha, Mahalakshmi, Saraswati, Nandikeshwara, Ganga, Mahakala, and Yamuna. Those are the 7 deities. In addition to this, in southwest direction, it's called Vastu Murti or Brahma. So all these deities must be first propitiated, and then we come to Panchasana Panchavarana Puja, where Shiva is slated to be on 5 thrones, from Adi Shakti to Parashakti, and then he is surrounded by, he being an emperor, he is surrounded by retinues, like Brahma Mantras, or that is the 5 phases which did the creation, and then Vidyeswaras, and Ganeshwaras, and then Ashtadigbalakas, starting from Indra to Ishana, the guardians of 8 directions, and then the Astra Devatas, that is the arms, Pashupatastram, Shivastram, and various astrams are there. They are also deified. So Shiva is surrounded by Avarna, means 5 retinues. So that's why you call Panchasana Panchavarna Puja. That is part of the Nitya Pujas. And then you do have special Utsavams. So Utsavams we can start from Nityotsavam. There are special Utsavams like Brahmotsavam, Pradosham, Mahasvaratri. They are all Utsavams. So the Utsavams, special Brahmotsavam and all this can last from 1 to 17 days. And if it is more than 5 days, we actually have flag raising and flag lowering ceremony called Dvaja Arohanam and Dvaja Avarohanam. So we call this one. And then the Utsavas are done, there is elaborate rituals called Mahotsava Vidhi, again in Agamas, how they should be conducted. All these snanas that takes place, and then all these various vahanas, both in the morning and the evening, various Shiva vahanas and Gaja vahanas, Aswa vahanas and so on. And also Shivan is a very family god. He always goes out with his family only. So we will, in all the Utsavas you will see, the Pradhana Murti that is being carried is called Panchamurti. In Panchamurti means Ganesha will go first. The next Shiva in the form of Somaskanda Murti. Somaskanda means Saha Uma Skanda, with Uma and Skanda, where the Skanda will be seated in the middle, and then Parvati on the left hand side and Shiva on the right hand side. It's called Somaskanda Murti. And then the third, followed by what is known as Chandikeshwara, his prime devotee, will be following. So that's why it's called, the Panchamurti is the highlight of all the Shiva Utsavams. And then the various Vaganas every day. On the 7th day there will be Rathotsavam. And then I would like to end my talk. We have talked about all the rituals and what is it that we as Shiva devotees should follow. I would like to say that, even I'm transgressing by 2 minutes. One, so for every god there is some sort of rules to be followed. For example, first starting from Pradakshinam. And then of course the Shiva Puja rituals that is followed in the temples is also followed, it can be followed at home with a slightly difference. The difference is in home puja, you say Yavat Puja Vasanakam, you stay that Murti till I finish my prayer, don't go away, we stay there. But in the case of the Murti in the temple, you say till the sun and moon exist, please remain in this Vigraham. That's a major difference in terms of what is Sun Nirodhanam, means stay here, stay put. So, and then in terms of the devotee participation, what is there? For Ganesha you have to do single Pradakshinam, for Shiva you have to do 3 Pradakshinams, at least. And then secondly, before doing any Aradhana for Shiva, you have to get permission from Nandi. Nandikesha Mahaprajna Siva Dhyana Parayana Mahadevasya Sevartham Anubhyam Dhatumargasi. Anubhyam means permission. You have to get the permission. And then when you have done all the Shiva Aradhanas, the Shiva Paladata, one who gives the fruits of all the Shiva Aradhanas, is nothing but Chandikeshwara. So you go to Chandikeshwara Sannidhi, and then you shouldn't do a clip like that, because you will be unnecessarily disturbing him from his dhyanam. So what you should do is only wipe your fingers, palms, to show that you have not stolen anything from the temple. So that, because in Shiva is this one, that is, you say Neelakanta Padam Boja Parispurata Manasa Sambho Seva Phalam Dehi Chandikesha Namostute. You give me the fruits of all the performance of Shiva Aradhana. So that's why you create Chandikeshwara. And then secondly, you will find that another practice is, after doing Shiva Pradakshinam, you have to sit at a place and then only you can go. So what is the significance of that? So in a Shiva temple, the Shiva Parivaras are supposed to be accompanying you to make sure that you don't fall down or get injured and to protect you. So for them, you have to say, please go back to the Shiva Sannidhi. I am going back to my home. So you say, Mahabali Parivaraha Siva Nya Paripalakaha Maya Nivartita Yuyam Gachantu Sivasannidam Gachantu Sivasannidam. So you ask them to go back. So that is the significance of all the Shiva worship practice from the devotee side. So I would like to end my talk. So please ask questions and also share.
Between Lord Nataraja or the dance god, Lord of Dance, and Chidambaram. So the Chidambaram temple itself is about 240 kilometers away from Chennai, south, in the district of Kadalur, South Arcot district, closer to Kadalur, and in Tamil Nadu. The temple has influenced architecturally, structure-wise, sculpture-wise, performance art-wise, worship-wise, many centuries back has influenced Hindu temples. And if you go back to Sangam literature, they talk about a specific architect who actually started the renovation of the temple back in 1213 AD. After that, Cholas, Cheras, Pandyas, Vijayanagara royals, they all had a hand in renovating the temple. And today, it looks as though it has not been more than 100 years old type of temple. It has been maintained that very well by a clan of priests called Dikshadas, who actually follow the Vedic principles. Shiva Chandrasekhar Mauli mentioned about it. Most of the principles that are followed today at the temple are Vedic tradition. Some here and there agamic, but mostly Vedic. And the word Chidambaram has actually a couple of connotations. My favorite ones are these two. Chit means consciousness. Ambaram means sky. So this is the height of consciousness one would get. And that is nothing but the goal for all of us as Hindus has to be, we have to be able to liberate ourselves from this human birth. And that's what the temple stands for. So the Shaivites used to believe that even a visit, one visit to Chidambaram will bring liberation for them. The second meaning is Chittu. Chittu means play, a dance. Ambalam means stage. So it is a stage where gods used to play, and god of dance is nothing but Lord Nataraja. So that is where Ananda Tandavam happened. It is actually Rudra Tandavam, Ananda Tandavam. There are so many Tandavams, are the dances that Lord Nataraja had played in that area in different courts. There are 5 sabhas or 5 stages, 5 ambalams in the temple. One of them is the place where he actually defeated Kali, and in other places where he had other types of dances. So each sabha, each ambalam has a specific meaning theologically. But to go back to what one would get out of this dance, watching the gods do the dances will actually give you eternal bliss, ecstasy. Therefore, once again, people say going to Chidambaram, staying in front of the Lord Nataraja will give you the ecstasy and the liberation and the bliss that one would want in their life. So those are the two specific origins of the name Chidambaram. And it's also, once again, the birthplace of sculpture. And the bronze image of Nataraja has actually become the symbol of Hinduism. Everywhere you go, it is in front of you, talking about Hinduism. You may have seen this in the So in many Western institutions, including the CERN astronomical center, astrological center, astrophysics center, you call it, different things go on there, which are all state-of-the-art, science-oriented institutions. They have 20-meter tall Lord Nataraja statue right in front. And the way they believe Lord Nataraja is, he is the origin of the universe. And what they do inside those centers is subatomic particles making them atom. Atom makes the molecules. Molecules give birth to all of the things we see in the world. So there is a connection between Lord Nataraja and what they do inside the center. So that kind of connotation and revelation Lord Nataraja statue stands for. And the temple itself is one of the 5 Panchabhuta Sthalam. Each sthalam in South India stands for element of nature. And in Chidambaram, Nataraja lives in the form of ether or akasham or sky. In other places, Kalhasti, in wind form, in Trichy, Jala form, in Tiruvannamalai, Agni form, and Kanchipuram, earth form. So this is one of the 5 most important Shiva temples in the India, I should say, the whole of India. Actually, Nishkala Tirumeni. He's also in the form of Linga, which is Sakala Nishkala Tirumeni, which is no end, no beginning also. And actually, Manikavasakar, a Tamil poet, talks about in the very first poem, Adiyum Andamum Illa. There is no meaning, there is no end, there is no beginning. So that is the Chandramoulishwara Lingam, that's in Nishkala form. The form itself is Nataraja, as we talked about, and that is with Shivakama Sundari on his side. His left leg is raised up in the dancing pose, and the left side is Shivakama Sundari, and the right side is what we're going to talk about later down the road. So all these three forms are present in the same Sabha, Ratana Sabha, Pur Sabha in Chidambaram. Formless, with form, semi form, all three are there. And then other features are very, very important for Chidambaram also. It is actually one of the most visited temples in terms of the earlier saints. Patanjali, Vyakrabhadar used to be living near the area, and Vyakrabhadar Munivar, the saint himself, got the name by Vyakra means tiger, Pada means feet. They used to say that he had feet like tiger because in the very early morning he used to climb up the trees, pick the flowers even before the bees would catch them, and bring to do Shiva worship. That kind of devotion Vyakrabhadar had. That's why his closeness to the Chidambaram is very important. Patanjali used to be there. Also, it's one of the Padal Petra Sthalam. In Tamil, it means most sung by Tamil poets. Appar, Sundarar, Sambandar, Manikavasakar, all of them have talked about, glorified Chidambaram temple in their poems throughout. So it's one of the primary shrine of Padal Petra Sthalam. And a very rare temple, as we talked about, Vedic principles are being held on a day-to-day basis. For example, they do the yajna. Even a small yajna would go on the side of the temple because it is the tradition. And again, maintained by this group of saints called Dikshadas. All Trimurtis, Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, are worshipped in the same complex. Vishnu is in the form of Govindaraja, and from a very same spot, if you stay in the right spot, you can see Lord Nataraja right in front of you. If you check, you turn your eyes on the other side, you see Govindaraja. Very, very rare sanctum sanctorium for both of them. So this is a very special temple. One other feature I want to bring out is the architectural beauty of it. The temple once again has 5 sabhas. One of them is the Pur Sabha or Ratana Sabha, where most of the rituals are held day to day. On top of the sabha is what you see here, which is a golden roof. This golden roof has been constructed with such significance to all the principles, all the Hindu philosophical as well as meaning to the whole special place itself. For example, it is actually held by 64 pillars, which stand for 64 forms of art. It is held by the tiles, which are 21,600 golden tiles. Each tile has Namah Shivaya written on them. Each tile has gold. And they are held by 71,000 nails, golden nails. Each of the nails stands for our nadi, our nadi inside our body. The 21,600 tiles represent our breaths. Each day, every human being takes so many breaths. And then all the elements put together in the body gets energy by the 9 kalasas on top. So anything and everything that is present in this temple has significance and importance that goes back to Hindu scriptures and philosophies and so on. And on the right side, I have just given a small photograph of the Gopuram. There are 4 Gopurams, and one of the Gopurams in detail show how Shiva and Parvati go on in procession. And even today, like I said, even today, they don't look like they have been weathered, they have been destroyed by elements and whatnot. They keep on maintaining it pretty well. So these are the special features. And today, now coming to the Rahasyam, Chidambara Rahasyam. This is the picture of Lord Raja and Shiva Sundari in the Sanctorium. And what you see is actually on the left side of where his Kunjita Padam or the leg is raised. On that side, you see a curtain and the garlands are covering the curtain. So everybody who thinks about Chidambara Rahasyam thinks of it as a Rahasyam, which means secret, which is not revealed to anybody. It simply means it's a place where Uma, Nataraja and Shiva Sundari are present, but they are invisible to the naked eyes. To the normal person, they are invisible. And the screen in front says, there is something special about it, but it is to be experienced, to be disclosed to you through certain means. What does that mean? Every day, when the special priest comes out and does the prayer in front of the Shivalingam, Chandramaulishwara, and goes to the main Sanctorium, he opens the curtain. He himself is expected to be or supposed to be in godliness nature, because these are priests who have been trained to do certain things when they take up this responsibility. Secondly, they also remain not connected with the society around them on that day. They do not talk, they do not eat, they do not do anything except think about Shiva. The whole day, the rotation comes to the Dikshita once in 365 days type of, so they consider this as the most important right they have, and most important privilege they have. So they come to the temple, do this prayer, and they are completely consumed by Shiva's power. So when they get to open the secret or the curtain, they are actually showing the devotees like us standing in front of the curtain, what is behind the curtain. What's behind the curtain is nothing but space. It's nothing but Akasham, which is the form of Lord Nataraja in Chidambaram. But the ambience and the occasion behind seeing this particular Rahasyam is so special, because not everybody will get to do that. Not everybody will get to see the Rahasyam, number one, feel the Rahasyam's actual importance, because you really have to be in that mindset to feel and see and experience it. So who does it? The priest who has actually turned himself into an utmost Shiva devotee do that. But philosophically, what it means is the priest is actually opening the curtain of ignorance, curtain of Maya, curtain of the things that are actually covering us. The outer kosha we have is nothing but all the typical inner enemies, Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya, all the 6 inner enemies are covering us. And once we remove that, what we see inside is nothing but Antaryami, indweller. As Dr. Shiva said again, indweller is nothing but God. Indweller is nothing but yourself. So the tattva behind the Chidambara Rahasyam is that one has to be in utmost surrender mode to experience Shiva in front of the Chidambara Rahasyam, and the action that one has to take is taking complete control of all the inner enemies and making yourself an instrument or a hollow field inside, so God's inner energy can flow, spirit can flow, and make yourself the same person as someone in front of you or God in front of you. So the whole meaning makes you think about the things that you have to do to cleanse yourself, to be receptive of the divine power of Lord Nataraja. Some of the similes, curtain is Maya, ignorance. Method is, of course, working hard to cleanse our inner enemies at the top. Nataraja, we do know that Nataraja has some special connection to Chidambaram, and how did that come about? So, if you go back to the story of Chidambaram itself, how did Chidambaram come about? And that's where the dance comes about. Chidambaram used to be called Thillai Vanam. Thillai is a type of bush or a tree. Thillai is a tree. So, even today, when you go to some marshy lands in and around Chidambaram, you would find the story goes that once upon a time in the Thillai Vanam, Nataraja had taken a form of a mendicant and as a Bhikshandar. So he wandered around the forest asking for alms. And he was, of course, very handsome, very brilliant, very beautiful. And in the same Thillai Vanam, Thillai forest, there used to be rishis living and trying to gain more and more spiritual power. So they were doing the homam and other things. And in the same context, the wives of the rishis got so attracted by the mendicant. So they started following this mendicant, and the rishis got enraged because their routines were disturbed by this.
Because the cosmic part of Shiva, I am coming to that. The oldest literature calls him the Adi Deva, or the oldest among the gods. The archaeological evidences show that only goddesses were worshipped before him. And even our literature calls her Adya, meaning the primordial one, because there is no noun added to that after that, like Adi Dev or Adi Devi. It is simply Adya, which means she is the most ancient one. And that is what is being also proved by the various historians and evidences that have come out. Most of these evidences, as I will come to them, are basically from the archaeological renderings, from the various rock shelters where the ancients have painted certain paintings and things like that. The humankind has already seen the earth as mother and the sky as father, and that is quite evident in our literature right up to the Bollywood songs. Just as there are songs that say that Dharti meri mata pita asman mujhko to apna sa lage sara jahan. So right from Rigveda down to our most recent literature, we have the feelings for earth as our mother goddess. And in the same way, we also have the same feelings for sky as father. And how did it develop? Just as it was very natural to worship the mother, as she is the one who gives us the birth, the sky gods began to emerge soon afterwards as the man looked to the sky and the stars for landmarks in the vast open lands where he inhabited and hunted. Because it was the hunter-gatherer stage of the human life. In that hunter-gatherer stage, if you are hunting something and you are running behind an animal and keep on running behind till the late evening, how do you come back home? Only the stars in the sky can be your guide if you know. And that has been the case with till very late in our history, when the seafaring people used to take guidance from the stars. Thus, the Akashic gods, I borrow the word from Nikola Tesla, made sense in a hunter-gatherer stage of human life. So much so that by the time of composition of the Vedas, deities were perceived as men in the sky. I'm referring to the Purush Sutra, where the head is the sky and the feet are on the ground, the earth. After the Vedic times, a long tradition of using the star positions in the iconography of Lord Shiva has been evident in Indian temples, particularly the South Indian temples. And that is because the temples in South India have survived the vagaries of time. There were temples in North India also which were equally big, which were equally complex, which were constructed on the same principles as the South Indian temples are, but they are no more with us now, we can't see them. But the South Indian temples which have survived, they show us very clearly, and there have been many studies on how the stars have influenced the iconography, and particularly the Shiva iconography. Some of the later when we show the slides, it will come out of that. The tradition of Ardra Darshanam is a part of this heritage, as well as the method to carry it to the next generation. It is in many of the temples. I went to all the temples where the Akash Tattwa was Shiva, Kalahasti, and there they showed the even it was not the day of Ardra Darshanam, but the priest showed me, took me around and showed that see that part in the sky. So, and that is Ardra Darshanam. Though in the day I can see anything, but still that tradition survives, and that is a method to carry this knowledge to the next generations. The Indians had seen the Alpha Orionis or Ardra in the Orion constellation as Kalpurush in the sky, as Lord Shiva is since the very early times. So this is the you will see in this Shiva, it is written in the center. Sir, can you go to the next slide? Yeah, so this is actually the photograph of the sky. They would usually imagine, see these stars are independent of all this, but they would imagine that if you put these lines like that, this kind of a figure comes up. Now this is not only in India, the West also so sees it. In the West, they are seeing it as Orion the hunter, they are seeing it as hunter. We are seeing it as Kalpurush. So, and then there is also a connection, I'm coming to that. Orionis is one of the brightest stars in the night sky. Actually, it is the ninth most bright star which we are taking as Shiva. So, bright stars are like, you can see them, you can remember them. And has a reddish color. No wonder that the color is associated with the Rudra form of Shiva. And is it a mere coincidence that the English word red also comes from the same Rudra only? Probably due to being so bright, and maybe due to its position in the sky, the West also saw the star of Orion as great hunter. Shiva in India is also associated with very ancient myths like the hunter of elephant demon. Shiva is associated with Gajasur one. And then in later times, the story of Kirata. In form of Kirata, he has picked up a fight with Arjun, and then he teaches him a lesson, and then Kirata Arjunium, a whole drama has been written on that. The same Orion is known to Indians as Kalpurush also. Shiva's association with time may be as old as the association of the Orion stars in the sky, since the movement of the stars in the sky also tells the passage of time. The association of Shiva with the time must have begun at that time, and then continues throughout the history, as Shiva is seen as Kalpurush and even as Kal Samharmurti. So Kal Samharmurti means the destroyer of time. So he is associated with Pralaya. He is associated with the like end of the world. So this Kal Samharmurti, since the Kal itself is such an astronomical function, Kal Samhar, that is all the more an astronomical function. That is why Shiva is a cosmic deity. So I say this, that's why at time peculiar astrological function and comes down up to the worship as Mahakal and Ujjain. That same tradition is continuing when we see the worshipping of Mahakal and Ujjain. Now all these ideas seem to be very old, much older in civilization itself, and point to the birth of their birth in the hunter-gatherer stage of society. The evidence comes from some rock shelter paintings. Can you go to the next slide, please? So this is a rock shelter painting. I will just tell something about it. This is in Bhimbetka. Bhimbetka is a place near Bhopal, some 50 miles from Bhopal, and this was found in 1955-56 by an archaeologist by the name Sri Vishnu Temple. Now, Dr. Wakankar was a very from central India. He was there, and then when he found it, I will just come to this and try to just say, see, this is the actual form. Yes. So he has identified it as Bhimbedka Nataraj. Now, what is the significance? The significance is that this Bhimbedka Nataraj is the oldest painting that we can claim that we can see anywhere of a deity who is still being worshipped. This is a Mesolithic times thing, Mesolithic Middle Stone Age. Middle Stone Age means, if in years I translate it to, this will come to something like at least 15,000 years old. So, sir, you were saying that we have a civilization going back to 6,000 to 8,000 to 10,000 years old, but here is a painting. Here is something which is called, which is identified with Nataraja, and this is 15,000 years old. So can we just go to the next slide? This is the an archaeological like line drawing of that, which Wakankar had made. And for this discovery, in 1975, that's almost 20 years afterwards, Indira Gandhi gave Wakankar the Padma Shri award. So it's only because of finding out of this one particular thing. So these are very old ideas. So they go up to the Middle Stone Ages. They indicate by their styles, etc., that these ideas, at least these ideas go up to the Middle Stone Age. Most of these rock shelter paintings are hunting scenes, and Shiva or Orion, the great hunter of the Greeks, seem to be a natural choice even for the Indians of Madhya Pradesh to worship him. The evidence in form of rock paintings indicate that he was probably the first male god to be worshipped, as I said. So I will shorten it because then it is, I think we have some shortage of time. In any case, the real beginnings of Shiva worship are obscured in our hoary past, and it is almost impossible to determine the exact date of the beginning of Shiva worship. Here what I mean is, it is very difficult to really imagine that a person as such in form of Shiva would have ever existed, or even if he had existed, how layer after layer of various myths and other things came upon him. But so it is not the person that is important. What is important is the idea of Shiva. How did that idea originate? That's how I started my presentation with. And how that idea has come up to us till now. The very journey of that idea is important because various landmarks, they tell that in our civilization where all we have gone through. So most of the stories associated with Shiva have deep meanings behind them. Every myth has a body of truth at its core. The truth can be sorted out by a very critical and rational approach, but it's pretty difficult now because thousands and thousands of years have passed. Thus the main story, that the myth of Gangavataran, so you can go to the next, yeah, so this is the Gangavataran. Again, Gangavataran is also in the sky. Why we call it Akash Ganga, Niharika, that is our Milky Way. So though it is a discus shaped thing, but we are at a corner, so because of this we see it only as a line. We see it as a flowing Ganges. So what appears to be behind this myth is that when the great river Saraswati dried up and the people moved towards the valley of Ganga for the first time to, now it is thousands of years back, and when the people moved towards Ganges, now the Ganges has to be given some religious sanctity. So it is said that she is flowing from Lord Shiva's jatas. So, and for that we see this Gangavataran also, this Akash Ganga is working, this just above this same constellation, and it is on the head of it. You can see Orion, you can see Canis Minor, and then this is the scene of the Ananda Kanda, where she was just telling that in the sky you have even that what you were talking as Ahankar, and Shiva is dancing on that Ahankar. That Ahankar, embodiment of Ahankar is there. Some stars do make that kind of thing also. So this is the Ananda Kanda, and the story of Shiva burning down Kamdev seems to be the story of beginning of the institution of marriage. This is another very important chapter in our civilization, because why we emphasize the wedding of Lord Shiva and Parvati so much? Because this happens after burning down of Kamdev. What is Kamdev? Kamdev as a person is very deeply related to Shiva, because the wives of both of them, Sati and Rati, consorts, because the institution of marriage had not yet come. So the divine consorts of both of them are sisters. These are the two, among 27, 29, 30 daughters of Daksha Prajapati, two are Sati and Rati. Sati is the consort of Lord Shiva, Rati is the consort of Kamadev. So they are related. But then Shiva burns Kamadev. When he burns it, he is burning an old structure, an old social system. What is that system? That is promiscuity. So when Shiva burns down the promiscuity, a new system has to evolve. And what that new system evolves is the system of wedding, the system of marriage. So the Parvati's marriage to Shiva is very important in the sense that it has got the sanction of the gods. You know, what has happened there is that Lord Shiva, there will always be disturbances.
His duty calls. Holding for a few more minutes.
So I was saying, when Lord Shiva Shiva marries Parvati, this marriage happens with the will of the gods. Because the gods, they ask Parvati to do the penance. And when that happens, it is sanctioned by the gods. And even till this day, when we get married, what do? We do a sacrifice. We have fire. And what is it for? That sacrifice, that fire, it is for getting the sanction to that marriage by the gods only. So we are continuing that tradition. Before that, as I was describing, the unions were merely manasa. So manasa, mind born. By burning down the Kamadev and later by marrying Parvati by the will of the gods, Lord Shiva is establishing an institution where the union is not merely mind born, but desired and sanctioned by the gods. Samudra Manthan is another one, the churning of the ocean. I'll just very briefly dwell on this. It's another wonderful story that has an important role for Shiva. In it, it seems to be the story of telling the beginnings of maritime trade in distant prehistoric past. See, we usually think that maritime trade, people going to various civilizations, meeting people, going foreign countries, is a new thing. No. The evidences of our history show us very clearly that these have been there from very ancient times. Man has been roaming around this whole planet not since yesterday, not since Columbus came out. Man has been going around ever since he had got the legs. Sure, the speed was less. They would be walking, they would be going by the seafaring. So they didn't have jets. But however, whatever were the conditions, they were going, and there are such evidences that they have left, of course unknowingly, because of which today we can see that this idea of Shiva did travel universally. I am coming to that. So Samudra Manthan is the beginning of that. it is the beginning of the maritime trade, and that is why it is the churning of the ocean. Churning of the ocean is nothing but big ships the mankind has developed by that time. So those big ships are going, and so for a poet it is that this ship is going into the ocean, churning the ocean. What comes out of it? Lakshmi, the goddess of wealth. Vyapare Vanijya Vasate Lakshmi, it's a very old sutta. So once the maritime trade starts, the Lakshmi comes out. You get more rich. And who gets Lakshmi? Who gets to marry Lakshmi? Vishnu gets to marry Lakshmi. Who is Vishnu? Vishnu is a king. Every king has some avatar of Vishnu in him. Because if Vishnu doesn't get Lakshmi, how will he run the state? So that is why all these things have a deeper meaning. And even at material level, see, at the spiritual level, sir was speaking, you were speaking, she also spoke at a very spiritual level. But I am saying even at a very material level, Daivik, Bhautik, all the three. At all the three levels, this is something which has to be interpreted and told to our younger generations.